For those of you who don't know what this is called Flashpoint. It's a show on the Victory Network, which is owned and operated by the one and only Kenneth Copeland, televangelist Kenneth Copeland. It is a far-right extremist TV show that pushes Christian nationalism down people's throats, to say the least. This is actually, I'm not sure, I think part 3. If you haven't seen the other parts, it's fine. I'll provide missing context if it's needed. This stands independently of the rest. But in the last episode, Mike Lindell was talking about, can you guess what? Voter fraud, of course. That's all the dude talks about. But oh my God, is it weird when he talks about this stuff, and deeply entertaining. So anyways, they took a commercial break, and that brings us up to this point right here. So let's continue watching Flashpoint and see what these people had to say for themselves. This is Gene Bailey on screen right here. He's the host. Let's see what he has to say.
Welcome back to the second half of Flashpoint. Let's get right into it. Rick Green, welcome to the show. Good to see you again, sir.
Oh, yeah. They were also talking about student loan forgiveness and how evil it is and how Biden is evil and everybody's evil. Oh, my God.
All right. So this week, if you had a student loan, I mean, you get $10K, it looks like. What do you think about all that, Rick?
That's inaccurate. No. People are not getting $10,000 if they had a student loan. They are having $10,000 forgiven if the student loan still exists. There's a distinct difference between the two. But, nuance is lost on these people. They intentionally strip nuance away from situations to make them seem different than they actually are in reality.
Well, you're being cheap, Gene. It's just $20K if you had a Pell Grant. So for
sorry.
A lot of folks out there, it's twice as much.
Again, they're not receiving this money. They're just having it forgiven from the student loans. And I'm actually in favor of that. I think it's a good thing, a really good thing, honestly. But you know what I care more about? Fixing the root of the problem in the first place. Like, I wish that we could find some way to lower tuition costs so people wouldn't have to get obscene amounts of loans like that. Seriously, it costs tens and what is 10 or 20,000 forgiven even going to do for people right now? Do you know what it's going to do for people? It's going to forgive one semester worth of tuition in some situations, in many circumstances. We should be resolving the underlying issue in addition to forgiving student loans, in my opinion.
So don't be so cheap, man. I mean, if you're going to give away money and you're going to put the burden on somebody else, you might as well make it a good burden.
All right, but let me ask you, before you go any further, this is the part that I'm just surprised. No, I'm not.
You catch what he said there, putting the burden on somebody else. Such a cheap propagandistic framing. It's absolutely disgusting to me, honestly.
Surprised. You just don't see on mainstream media. All you hear is about all this money is being given out. Who pays for it?
Right.
The same person that pays for the massive military budget that you insist on having for no fucking reason. That's who pays for it. We all pay into the government, and then the government does this stuff. So stop complaining like you're the only person paying. We're all paying into it. That's just how a society works. There isn't a society on planet Earth that doesn't have taxes that's actually functioning, at the very least. So I don't want to hear it.
I do.
Exactly.
Everybody watching this program, that's the sad thing. The people that chose not to go to college because they already figured out it was a scam, money scam, as Charlie Kirk likes to say, and I think he's absolutely right.
No, he's not right. College is one of the few ways that you can pull yourself out of poverty. Sometimes. I mean, it depends. It doesn't always work in this society, unfortunately. It is how I pulled myself out of poverty, at least partially. I really just got lucky, honestly, pulling myself out of poverty. I was damned from the start. I had almost no chance of success because of the experiences that I'd had and the life that I was born into, family that was not helpful and it treated me extremely poorly. Entire family was just awful and discouraged higher education from a young age because that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do, you know. So it really was just pure luck on my part. I don't feel like I have myself to thank for like anything that I did, but at any rate, college is one of the few ways that people can maybe pull themselves out of poverty, and it is truly disgusting to hear people like this bashing college as this waste of time and money and life and everything else. It's just disgusting. It really is.
Or those who, like me, went to college, went to law school, had to pay off my loans. We're going to pay for these other folks to not pay what they agreed to pay. I do think college is a fraud at this point because 2/3 of graduates do not even use the degree that they got. They go into some other field.
I don't even know if that's an accurate statistic. These people have a tendency to just make statistics up on the spot, so take that with a grain of salt. Either way, it doesn't matter if you use the degree that you got. Just having a degree, period, sometimes gets you into a situation where you can make more money than you would otherwise. College graduates make more money on average than their non-college educated counterparts do. And that's partly because the types of jobs who hire people for more money require a college education. The reason that they require a college education, whether it has to do with your current field or not, is because college offers general ed classes too. They teach you to think critically. They teach you advanced math skills. They teach you scientific concepts and stuff like that in college. So whether you're using your degree or not, the degree that you went for, you're still using the education that you got. No matter what, you will always have that education behind you. I am all for college education, 100%. I stand behind college all the way. Maybe that's because Jehovah's Witnesses stood against it so fervently. I don't know. But it is one good way to pull yourself out of poverty. Unfortunately, Republicans have been doing everything they can to destroy college education, to make it unaffordable, to make it more difficult to get in various different ways. And this is just another example of them demonizing a college education for no reason. They don't even need to do this. Why? Why demonize college? Because they want their population uneducated. That's why. That's why they're doing this.
But you know what? If you made that bargain and you chose to take out those loans, you owe those loans, and to shift that to other taxpayers. And worst of all, I mean, it's one thing if Congress did this, it'd still be bad. It'd still be immoral. It would still be send all the wrong signals to the culture.
You ready for the Biden blame?
For the president?
Well, there we go. We lost Rick there.
Oh, they lost him. Okay, well, I guess we don't get the Biden blame, but you know it was coming.
Let me go to you, John. When you see this sort of thing, this is really breaks down the heart of American workers.
It really is. Let me finish what I think Rick was going to say. People like he and I that worked full time, went to school, and paid off our loans. I paid off my wife's loans. I'm paying for my kids' college.
Well, you know, we can't all be CEOs. I believe this guy is a CEO. I'm not sure what he's a CEO of, or maybe a CFO. He's some kind of member of a board of directors of some really high, like, dude makes like tons of money. So does the other guy, Rick Green. They don't want for anything. So I honestly don't even want to hear it.
So
I worked so hard and I paid off my loans. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. This guy has absolutely no say in what's going on right now because he has no idea what it's like to work your ass off 60, 70, 80 hours a week and still not have enough money for rent, let alone enough money to pay to go to college. He has no idea what that is like.
so that what? My kids, my two oldest kids are working full-time doing college at night. And so we're punishing people who work hard, we're punishing people who pay their bills, and we're rewarding people. And he's right, it's up to $20,000 for as long as you don't make over $250,000. And so
no, you're not punishing anybody who paid your bills off or who paid the loan off. See, I just don't get it. Like, where is this mindset coming from? How are these people not grasping the concept of rising people out of poverty is a good thing? Helping people build their lives is a good thing. You don't want to help anybody because you didn't receive any help? Do you not understand how deeply narcissistic that is? Seriously, how do people not see this for what it is? Absolutely disgusting. I don't understand.
It's an absolute handaway, and it's illegal, Gene. The President of the United States, under the Constitution, should never be able to do this.
That's completely inaccurate. The President does have the ability to forgive debts in certain circumstances, this being one of those circumstances. The president is perfectly free to do this. There are no limitations on it, basically. He can forgive... I think it's like he can forgive debts in times of crisis or something. I forget exactly what the rules are. And COVID was considered like one of those times of crisis. So he has the ability to forgive debts. It's not illegal, and he's wasting his time trying to argue that it is. It's perfectly legal. But anyway.
It was Obama who took all the student loans away from the banks and put it under the federal government's education. They're educators. They're not bankers. And so this is what happens. They're buying votes is what they're doing, Gene. And it's unjust. It's unfair. And
okay, doing something that people like is not buying votes. Look, if Trump wanted to get more votes, then he could have offered higher stimulus packages. It would have been perfectly legal. It would have been totally fine. Offering things to people is not buying votes. It is doing things that people like. How does he not get this? This absolutely blows me away.
People need to wake up.
They do need to wake up.
People need to wake up. He means sheeple. Sheeple!
And I love that you said buying votes, because that's exactly what it is. Let me show you what happened to Student Loans Age website. Watch.
So my message to all servants, all public servants, all those who are the ones who are volunteering, is out with student debt to go. Here's what you want. If you're worried about how to do it, go to pslf.gov before October 31st to see if you qualify for public service student loan forgiveness. This is another game changer.
Well, PSLF, interesting. PSLF.gov, is that what he said? I'm actually going to write that down. Interesting. Make note, guys, if you need your student loans forgiven, if you have some or whatever, try that website. It may do you some good. I would love it if people got their student loans forgiven as much as possible.
And we're going to have people who are there to help get you, help direct you and work you through the process.
They're going to have people there, Rick, just not yet, because the website, as he was giving it, it had crashed. What is that?
Wow, that's really not that big of a surprise, if it's even true. These people make things up constantly. Very possible it's not even real, but either way, it wouldn't surprise me if it crashed, because there are millions and millions and millions of people who have massive amounts of debt that could be forgiven here. Of course, you're going to have tons of people going there trying to see if they're eligible or whatever else. And guess what? Biden isn't the only one capable of forgiving student debt. If Trump had wanted to, he could have, quote-unquote, bought votes by campaigning on this. Hell, he could have forgiven student debt if he wanted. This isn't like Biden taking money out of his own pocket to try to con people into voting for him or something. This is a public policy position that he has held for a long time, or that he's been talking about for a long time. Trump was perfectly free to do it too.
Say to you.
Well, I mean, first of all, that they're in the wrong business. This should be none of their business. And as I was going to say before I lost you there, in fact, let me do my best Joe Biden here. I'm going to squint to read my Constitution Made Easy. Some might say this is unconstitutional for the president on his own to do this with a stroke of a pen. Up to.
Okay, well, those people would be wrong. It's not actually unconstitutional at all. It's perfectly within the bounds of legality here.
$500 billion is what some studies are saying. This is going to be a shift of money to taxpayers. But actually, if you look in Article 2, where the president's job is described, in Section 5, that doesn't really exist. It stops at Section 4. But in Section 5 of Joe Biden's made-up Constitution, as I shared on Victory News this afternoon, it says that the president, at any time he has a whim, he just has a feeling that he wants to shift money from one person to another, and he wants to buy votes by doing so, he may do so at any time he wants, as long as he signs an executive. This is crazy.
Yeah, except he's not buying votes. Once again, this is how propagandistic framing works. This is not buying votes. This is pushing through a public policy position that would be massively beneficial to a lot of people. If Rick Green runs for office and wants to get those same votes, he could advocate for the same thing. Simple as that. This is a public policy position you can advocate for and get those exact same votes if that's what you wanted. This is not buying votes. People should be advocating for policy positions that the people want. This is ridiculous.
Easy, Gene. He's making this up as he goes. There is no constitutional authority or congressional authority.
Yes, there is. It's very clear constitutional authority for the president to forgive debts. This isn't just like precedent. This has been ruled on like 1,000 times over. I don't even know what he's talking about right now.
For him to do this, and people should be fighting mad about it.
They should be mad. In fact, let me show you what people are saying about the student loan.
You know what really bothers me about this situation? We'll see what they have to say in a second, but what really bothers me about this is the fact that these people on Flashpoint are getting others to vote against their own interest. They're getting their audience, who are most likely to benefit from the policy positions being pushed through the White House right now with like student loan forgiveness and stuff. They're getting their poor suckers to vote against student loan forgiveness, even though they need it the most. This is millionaires and billionaires, Rick Green, Gene Bailey, Kenneth Copeland's network, getting poor suckers to vote against their own interests, to vote against things that would help them personally. It is so sad to see. So sad.
I pay for my student loan, and everyone else should pay for theirs too.
Pastor Mark Burns, people are saying all across the country.
Wow, did they just show a single example? Let's just step back there. I thought they were going to put a supercut together with like, you know, hundreds of people. Oh my God, everybody's saying this exact same thing.
Show you what people are saying about the student loan.
I pay for my student loan, and everyone else should pay for theirs too.
Is that people to you? I thought that was, I think the proper word is actually person. Let's take a look at what person are saying about student loans. Ridiculous, dude. Forgiving student loan debt is a massively popular position. And it's disgusting, truly disgusting, that millionaires and billionaires that own the Victory Network and host it and all that other stuff are getting people riled up over this.
Pastor Mark Burns, people are saying all across the country, I believe, like the raid that we talked about earlier, how that backfired.
I think they're talking about the search of Donald Trump's house, Mar-a-Lago. The FBI searched his house for documents that he stole. National security documents. We just found out that it was the nuclear capabilities, documents on the nuclear capabilities of foreign countries. and also, I believe, human asset intelligence. Extremely sensitive stuff. So anyway, completely justified search, but that's neither here nor there. Let's keep listening.
It seems to me, and disagree if you feel differently, I believe this is going to backfire as well on the Biden camp.
Gene, absolutely this is backfiring. I mean,
No, it's not. Forgiving student loan debt is massively popular. It is a massively popular position. No way in hell is this backfiring. I can't believe Republicans are even suggesting that it could backfire. This is extremely popular among pretty much everybody.
you send people on the left, the right, and the left. Even the NAACP, Derek Johnson, who has spoken out against. Now, clearly, he believes that there should be more payout. But the fact is that they believe that Joe Biden, even in his attempt to pacify black voters, and the NAACP came out and said, this is not how you treat black people who make up 90% of your.
Dude, what is he talking about? He's like rambling, and I don't understand anything that he's saying right now. The NAACP came out and said what? They said that he should do more student loan forgiveness, but then said this isn't how you should be treating black people. What is he talking about? Do you have a source on that quote there, Mark? I'm so confused.
90% of black folks who showed up to vote for you, they even hate their weak Joe Biden debt forgiveness loan program. The reality of it is...
Wait, 90% of Biden voters hate student loan forgiveness? Is that what Mark Burns just said? That is completely, factually wrong in every way. What is he even talking about right now?
As long as the government controls you and as long as the government pays for your life and pays for your debt, they control you.
No to all of that. The government isn't paying for people's debt. They are forgiving a single amount of debt for certain people. One time. They aren't controlling anybody through debt forgiveness or anything. They're not withholding debt forgiveness if people refuse to bend to their will or whatever else. What is he even talking about? This is nonsense, dude.
Should pay for their own debts like all of us good, hardworking Americans have to have done. Even Betsy Devos came out recently and stated that, this is an illegal action by Joe Biden, that when President Trump was in office, he didn't have the right to counsel any debt. But
okay, so I don't know if you guys are aware of who Betsy DeVos is, but she is I think she was the head of the Department of Education under Donald Trump. And I believe that she bought her way into that position. If don't quote me on that, but she made a massive campaign contribution to Trump, I think millions of dollars. And then she was named Secretary of the Department of Education or whatever. So take that for what you will. But why did he say even Betsy DeVos as though she's some bastion of liberalism or whatever? Why did he say even Betsy DeVos? You know why? Because he's trying to frame it as though even the people who love Biden the most don't like this decision from him, when in reality, Betsy DeVos doesn't like Biden at all. Never has. And she's just a right-wing shill. Nothing more, nothing less. I mean, the way that he's framing this is deeply propagandistic. And this is the kind of thing I've come to expect from Flashpoint and from Mark Burns personally.
Yet here is Joe Biden doing the same thing. So you have the people on the left and the right that are speaking out against this debt cancellation by Joe Biden.
Did you catch that? He said, even Betsy DeVos disagrees with Biden. And then he said, so you have people on the left and the right. Who's on the left that disagrees with this? Betsy DeVos isn't on the left. She's like a far-right shill. Who are you talking about? Which people on the left? These are called weasel words, okay? Weasel words are when somebody refers to some ambiguous authority. Who are you talking about when you say they? They're out to get me. The left is destroying America. Who on the left? What are they doing? Get specific. These are weasel words. Give me specific information about this stuff.
And it's backfiring in his face.
Well, you know, Susan Rice says it's not a giveaway. Watch.
This is not a giveaway to rich people. This is not any of the things that...
Wait, who is Susan Rice? She's not the press secretary. I have no idea who they're showing on screen right now. I mean, I know the name, I think. But what does she have to do with anything? I mean, is she even talking about student loan forgiveness? Because, you know, that's the kind of thing they would do. Play a completely out of context clip and claim she was talking about it when she absolutely wasn't. I've seen them do that kind of thing a billion times.
Republican critics have charged.
John, it's not a giveaway.
No, I guess if you make $250,000 a year, you're not rich. You're still poor, and the government needs to come through and pay your bills for you.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did they misunderstand what's happening and believe that the government is only forgiving student debt for people who make $250,000 a year rather than people who make under that amount? Yeah, let me just correct that for you. They're not forgiving the student debt of everybody that makes $250,000 a year and nobody else. This is pure propaganda, plain and simple, and it's absolutely disgusting, man. Absolutely disgusting. Oh, and it's not $250,000 a year. It's $125,000 a year for single people, or $250,000 a year for married couples. But they picked the highest of the two numbers because this is propaganda.
You pay $20,000 of them, 10% of what you make every year. It's insane, Gene. It's wrong. Pastor Mark is right. Nancy Pelosi, when President Trump was the president, said, "Oh, he doesn't have authority to do this." It's going to be interesting to see the legal challenges of this.
Dude, what? Nancy Pelosi, while Trump was president, claimed he didn't have the legal authority to forgive student loan debt? When did this happen? Did this happen? I don't think this happened at any point. What is he even talking about? Democrats have been trying to get student loan debt forgiven for like decades at this point. For a long, long time. Because it is bearing down on people. It's crippling society right now. Honestly, what's crippling society is the fact that colleges are charging so much in the first place. It's discouraging people from getting a higher education, and the people that do get a higher education are suffering terribly from it. It's just really, really making a mess out of society right now. But I can't imagine a situation in which Nancy Pelosi would discourage anybody from forgiving student debt. Anybody.
And to see the gamesmanship that goes on if anybody ever fights back over this, who's going to pay these bills?
The taxpayers. That's how a society works. You know, we pay taxes into the government, and the government uses that money for this thing or that thing.
Federal government, it's the same thing that happened with the housing industry in 2008. The federal government takes everything and then it shakes the whole economy. Remember Romans 13:8, owe no debt to any man except the continuing debt to love one another. The borrower is servant to the lender. Proverbs is very clear about this.
Yeah, okay, interesting. You want to bring the Bible into this? What about that verse in the Bible that says that all debts will be forgiven after 7 years? Do you remember that one? That pesky little verse that kind of throws a wrench into your entire belief system? He doesn't want to remember that one because it contradicts his already existing belief, so he's going to pretend it's just not there, right?
And so he wants people to stay his servants. He wants people to vote for him so that he keeps giving handouts. That's what this is about. It's his way to recover his abysmal record in the White House before the midterms.
You know...
Yeah, like I said, any president is capable of forgiving student debt or campaigning on that. If you want to get those votes instead, just tell the voters that you'll forgive more student debt than Biden. Simple as that. You're not buying votes. This is a policy position. This is doing something that is deeply interesting and attractive to voters. Completely different situation.
It's so true.
No, it's not.
You just wonder how much can the American public take. I really do. I'm still surprised, though, Rick, I'm going to come back to you. I'm still surprised at how many people really still believe this is a good idea and don't really understand that they're paying for the bill. They don't really see that as a reason they're paying for the bill.
Okay, well, I'm paying for the bill for student debt to be forgiven, and I'm also, which is an incredibly small amount of money compared to the other things that I'm paying for, which is a massive military that these people are absolutely obsessed with building for no reason. Like entirely too big. Some disgusting amount of our revenue as a country goes into funding the military, like entirely too much. And these people push for that type of thing. So I'll tell you what, I'll pay for your stupid military funding and you pay for people's student debt to be forgiven. It's a fair trade. But these people never remember that. They never remember the things that they want the government to fund, and the fact that the things that they want the government to fund cost way more than the measly $500 billion. Or wait, what is it even? How much did the student debt forgiveness cost? Hang on, let's see. How much student debt did Biden forgive? Biden has canceled $25 billion of student loans. $25 billion looks like. Some places are saying it's $34 billion rather than $25 billion. I don't think anybody is completely 100% sure exactly how much it'll be, but it seems like it's roughly in that range. We're looking at 25 to 35 billion. Let's go on the high end. Weird, because earlier they said it was $500 billion. Is that weird to anybody else? That they just threw out the number $500 billion, which is 10 to 15 times higher than it actually is. Is anybody surprised by that? This is how propaganda works. So I don't want to hear it, 35 billion. Let's just go high on this. Say it's 35 billion versus the literal trillions that goes into the military. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I'm more than happy to help people pay off their student loans. I am more than happy to do that. These people will cry and scream about personal responsibility until they're blue in the face, and then blame all of their ailments on liberals and demons when it's convenient for them. Ridiculous.
Talk to you about constitutioncoach.com. Rick Green, Title IX. Now, Title IX is out there. We talked about this early on, probably a year or so ago. It was raising its ugly head, and here we are again. So I want you to make it clear. Title IX, Rick, what is that, and why should we be upset about it?
Well, we should be upset that they're completely changing the rules. What was intended to make sure that girls had sports programs they could participate in, and that there would be real competition, and that they wouldn't have the guys coming over and wiping them out in those sports. They're now going to completely change.
Oh my God, trans people in sports. Here we go.
The definition of what a female is. As we all know, we've been watching it happen in real time.
No one is trying to redefine the word female. No one's trying to redefine anything, honestly. Female and woman are two different, they're words with two different definitions. Generally, female is used to refer to your physical sex, the physical representation of your sex, and woman, or gender, is used to refer to the sociological and psychological representation of your gender, or how you identify, basically. Female is a pretty cut and dry definition. Woman is a little bit different than that. I mean, this is how it works for a lot of stuff. Just think about it. What is an apple? An apple is a fruit that has a red skin and has pulp in the middle, right? Well, not all apples. Some apples aren't red. Some of them are green. So you could say an apple is something that has pulp in the middle and a skin of various different colors on the outside. I mean, you can keep breaking this down further and further and further until you have an absurdly long definition that covers all exceptions for what an apple is, right? That's how definitions work like that. It's complicated to define something specifically. Generally, science defines a female as a member of a species that is capable or that has the potential for reproduction. And the reason that they put the word potential in is because some females are incapable of reproduction. So they have like a uterus or they have ovaries, but they can't actually get pregnant, right? And at the same time, even that definition doesn't fully apply because in some cases, the gender or the sex of the animal changes at various points. Like some animals or some bugs or whatever else will all start out as a female and then they will change to male as they get older, for example. This is a lot more complicated than they want to make it out. They are just looking for some opportunity to own the libs, plain and simple. That's what it's always been about. That's what it will always be about, owning the libs.
And allow specifically for that, for guys to come in. And they're going to bribe you with it and say, if you don't participate in this, we're going to take away your money for all your different programs. Gene, if I may just real quick.
Dude, what is he even talking about?
On what John was saying a while ago, because he was so right on to bring up 2008. I mean, even then it was principally wrong for the government to bail people out and do all the things that they did. It was horrible for the economy. It taught people to go ahead and make bad decisions.
Okay, I think he's talking about the 2008 bank bailout. The banks made a huge mess out of the economy, and then the government had to come in and bail them out with subsidies and loans and stuff. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that either necessarily, or I'm not a fan of how it went, and I'm also not a fan of the fact that only one single person went to jail for the corruption that took place in 2008 with the bank stuff. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Let's keep listening.
We'll bail you out for it. But at least in 2008, when George Bush made the mistake of coming out and saying, I'm normally a free market guy, but these are not normal times. Well, your principles are most important in not normal times. But anyway, when he did what he did, at least he went to Congress, right? At least he had Congress pass those bailouts. He didn't with.
What? Bush didn't deal with the bank bailout stuff, did he? I was pretty sure that Obama did all of the bank bailout stuff. I thought Obama dealt with the whole crisis. Like, George Bush, it was all set afire on George Bush's term, and then Obama had to come in and resolve it, like fix the problem, right? Am I misremembering? I mean, I was a little tiny kid at the time, so possible I don't even remember clearly. Yeah, Obama had to fix it. George Bush, the whole mess happened on George Bush's watch. Obama came in and fixed it. What is this dude even talking about right now?
A stroke of his pen, bail all those people out. That's what I think really has, as Pastor Mark was saying, left, right, everybody realizes this is not right. One man to turn around and do this, and even if Congress had rubber stamped it and gone along.
One man to turn around and do this? Wait until he finds out what who controls the military. He'll be really freaked out then, right?
Along with it and done it, I think the same response would be there, and people saying, this just feels wrong. If I borrow money, I'm supposed to pay it back. I'm not supposed to push that off on other people.
What happened to facts don't care about your feelings? What happened to that whole bit? What happened to people don't care about feelings? This is the anti-snowflake crowd, I thought, right? And he's talking about how he feels and how people feel about this.
But I do think what you said is right before you asked me that other question, and that is some people say it's okay because they think, like Nancy Pelosi, even when she said the president couldn't do it, she said it's not really forgiveness. It's just relieving people of those obligations. Well, Gene, I'd love to be
do you have a source on that? Who did he say said that?
Pelosi, even when she said the president couldn't do it, she said it's not really forgiveness. It's just relieving people of those obligations.
What, dude? What is he talking about? I don't remember Pelosi ever like making that weird distinction. What is he saying? I don't remember that at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she did say something like that, and I'm just missing it. But I'm deeply, deeply skeptical, to tell you the truth.
Well, Gene, I'd love to be relieved of obligations on my car, on my house, on my tractor.
Well, you see, that's the thing. You got PPP loans. The wealthy class, the business owners, they got PPP loans throughout the course of the pandemic. And that is why Biden is forgiving student loan debt right now, because the pandemic made people suffer so terribly. This is a pandemic aid package, just like the PPP loans were. People were given PPP loans and then had them forgiven en masse. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, got a ton of money forgiven, like hundreds of thousands forgiven in PPP loans. So, as a matter of fact, what did he say there?
Well, Gene, I'd love to be relieved of obligations on my car, on my house, on my tractor, on all.
Great, that happened. That happened for the rich. Rich people had all those obligations forgiven. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Billions forgiven total. So much that the IRS had to hire like tons more people to investigate the fraud that took place. Because there was so much forgiven. And the government correctly doesn't trust the rich to be honest about things like that. So anyways, yeah, that happened. Why is this guy complaining about the exact same thing happening to the poor? It's absolutely disgusting, to be perfectly honest, how obsessed they are with hurting poor people and benefiting themselves. No reason for it.
All of those things. Yeah. But that would be morally reprehensible and wrong for Nancy.
Really? Can I quote you on that? You think it'd be morally reprehensible and wrong for the rich people to get forgiveness, like debt forgiveness and subsidies and bailouts and stuff? Is that okay? Can I quote you on that one?
Pelosi to take that responsibility for me and say, hey, I think John Graves ought to pay for that. Gene ought to pay for that. Pastor Mark ought to pay for that. That is wrong, and they're doing it right in front of the entire American people, and the American people in their gut know it's wrong. Thankfully, Flashpoint's articulating why.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let me go back a couple months. Tulsi Gabbard, hear what she had to say about Title IX.
Okay, Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. I feel like that's obvious to everybody at this point, right? She's on Russian payroll. She came out and spoke extremely highly of Russia immediately after they attacked Ukraine. It was disgusting. Grotesque, matter of fact. I feel like grotesque is probably a correct word. She's an absolutely terrible person, and I honestly can't even believe that she ran for president on the Democratic ticket back in, I think, 2016. Ridiculous that she would have done that. She is a far-right extremist and carries water for Russia constantly. And as we can see, I mean, that's why Flashpoint is quoting her here. So let's see what she has to say.
A lot of women fought very, very hard to put Title IX in place, which is why...
You know what? I'm not sure what Title IX is, and they've been talking about it a lot, so let me just look it up here. Hang on. Most commonly used name for the federal civil rights law in the U.S. that was enacted as part of the Education Amendments of 1972. It prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or any other education program that receives funding from the federal government. Are you kidding me? Are they really slandering and attacking and like trying to destroy Title IX? Sex-based discrimination? Is that really what they're doing right here? Oh, please tell me that's what they're doing. That is insane.
It's so...
Let's step back and listen to this again at the beginning of Tulsi here.
Women fought very, very hard to put Title IX in place, which is why it's so disturbing to see the Biden administration and other very influential people in our society so easily pushing to not only get rid of that progress, but essentially erase women. They're saying that there is no such thing as a woman.
Nobody in any kind of a position of power or authority has ever said what was it she said? Women don't exist or whatever? There's no such thing as a woman?
But essentially erase women. They're saying that there is no such thing as a woman.
Nobody in a position of power has ever said that. That is ridiculous. See, this is once again another example of propaganda. They are spreading propaganda as much as they possibly can. They started this ridiculous BS culture war issue and tried to get Democrats to define woman for them, when in reality, the definition of any noun is really honestly hard to nail down. That's how definitions work. I mean, it's hard to nail down precisely, but they are doing everything they can to lean into this culture war issue because they think it pulls independents over to their side. And they might be right. They might be right on that point. Now, as far as, I guess that this whole thing is about women in sports, and people who are assigned male at birth competing under like women's categories or whatever. Every opinion that I have is science-based. If you disagree with one of my opinions, all you have to do is give me a science-based or a moral or a morals-based argument, and I will change my opinion just like that. It's that simple. As far as I can tell, there are some situations in which trans people competing in women's sports categories does give them an unfair advantage. I don't think that's terribly common. If they take HRT, it lowers their testosterone levels and other things like that, other hormone levels, to a level that is roughly equivalent to what somebody who is assigned female at birth would have. If they have no other advantages, if there are no advantages otherwise, I'm perfectly fine with them competing. And honestly, I generally side with people having being included. I side with inclusivity the vast majority of the time. So I'm not really like, I feel like if we could test and find these things out to see if there was some discrepancy, some unfair advantage they received, then we should do that. As far as I can tell, there really isn't an unfair advantage under very specific circumstances. All of that being said, I don't think that... So I side with inclusivity by default, but unfortunately, I don't think that there's any way for trans people to compete in sports right now. If you're trans, you're probably not going to be able to be in sports simply because of the cultural landscape right now. Simply because Republicans are using this as a culture war issue that appears to be a winning one at this immediate moment for them, unfortunately. And there is no circumstance under which a trans person could possibly compete in any sport and win and it be viewed as fair. Even if it was more than fair, even if their hormone levels were dramatically lower than everybody else. Even if, everything, even if it was all perfectly aligned, it doesn't matter. Republicans, like these guys here on Flashpoint, are going to demonize it and claim that it was unfair and everything else, no matter how fair it was. So unfortunately, I don't think that we're at a point in culture and society yet where it will be possible for trans people to compete in sports. That's just where we are. Maybe it'll be in a different place at some point.